It's time to shoot your first video, but you've never done this before. Here are some things to think about to help you plan for it. Let's start with the basics. First off, what are you doing? Are you doing a song? Are you doing a skit? Are you doing a short film? What are you doing? Figure out the purpose of what this video shoot is going to be. What are you communicating? Is there a storyline, or do you just want really cool visuals and transitions? Figure that out. Once you figure that out, how do you want it to look? How do you want it to feel? What outfits, what makeup, what hairstyle can you use to communicate those things to your audience? What colors, what wardrobe can you use to communicate that to your audience? All of these things are extremely important. And then you want to decide, how many locations is this going to take to make sure that my vision is coming from my head and we're bringing it out onto a TV screen, onto a cell phone, or however people are going to consume and watch your video. Now, I call that the basics because this is all a part of pre-planning. The actual thing that artists do not take the time to think about when it comes to video shoots is actually what I just said: time. More often than not, we as creatives get stuck as being the creative, and we forget that until we get to a certain level, until we have a certain caliber of team, until we can hire certain people and pay people consistently, we are everything that we need. So when it comes to shooting a music video, you are not just the talent anymore. You are now the project manager. You are now the assistant director. You are now the script supervisor. You are now wardrobe. You are now pre-planning. You are now the producer. You are now the casting director. You wear all of the hats because most of the times as independent artists, as smaller artists, we are starting on a smaller scale and we take on all of the responsibility before it gets to the point of having a team. So I need you to put on all of those different hats. And remember that you are not just the talent, you are not just the artist, you are now the project manager, the overseer of this entire project. First step for you is going to be to set up a meeting with whoever your videographer is, or if you get a director of photography. Those can be two different calibers of people. Just research who you want to work with and decide how professional, how big of a scope of work they can do. And that's going to determine if this person is going to align with the vision that you have, and if it's going to align with the budget that you have, because that is going to be the most important thing. So once you figure out who you're going to be working with, you need to schedule a pre-production meeting. Before you even get to the meeting though, like I said, you need to start with the basics. What is this going to be? What kind of look are you going for? What kind of story are you trying to tell? And in your mind, how do you want to present that? You need to come to this meeting with an idea already hashed out. Do not waste people's time coming to a meeting and trying to figure it out with them. They don't want to figure it out with you. They want you to present a vision to them, and then they will tell you with their skill level, with their expertise, what they can do to help you bring that vision to fruition, bring it to life. So do not come to this pre-planning meeting with nothing on your brain. You should have at least thought about some elements of what you want to be included in your video. So you have the pre-production meeting. What are you talking about? You've communicated with the videographer what you want to do, and now the videographer is talking to you and telling you what they are able to do to bring this to life. So now you're at this pre-planning, you're at this pre-production meeting, and the videographer is understanding your vision. And they're telling you what needs to be done, what needs to happen, and what they need to help you bring this vision to life. So you're going to be talking about the song, the storyline, the look, and the vibe. That's where the videographer comes into, okay? The look and the vibe. What is this going to look like? What is our color scheme? Do we need a color scheme, or do we have a very simple color scheme? Are we going to rely on your wardrobe to tell a story? Are we going to rely on the lyrics to tell a story? Do we need more camera angles? Do we need fancy lighting? If so, that videographer is probably going to need to bring in some crew members, because it's not just point and shoot once you get past a certain point. That's what I need y'all to think about. When you get to a certain level of production, it's not just you and the camera person. Now, as indie artists, a lot of times we're going to start out with just us and whoever the camera person is. But when you get to a certain level, It's not just you two anymore. More people get involved. More people have to be brought on to help us be more efficient with the time. Time is the thing that I need you to continue to think about when you are doing a video. So the videographer is going to tell you, do you need more people? Are we going to do multiple locations? The videographer might actually have some hookups, some places that they typically work, or if they're the kind of person that's been working for so long, they have a certain repertoire in their mind of places you can go to film certain things, or studios and locations that you can pay for to get certain looks, certain sets, certain colors, or just something that will help them as a videographer get you what you're looking for. So time is the main thing that you have to think about, right? Once you've had that pre-production meeting with your videographer, you need to sit down and hash out a schedule. And you should also do this with the videographer as well. This might take a second meeting, or y'all can do this over the phone. Depends on how you want to approach it. But you and your videographer need to sit down and hash out a timeline of events and how this is going to go. Again, if it's just you and the videographer, then it becomes a lot more easy to coordinate schedules. You and the videographer are the only two that you need to worry about. But if this is a bigger production where the videographer is bringing on a crew, and if it's a bigger production where you need models, you need actors and actresses, or you need extras, then that's involving more people in the pot. And inevitably, when more people are involved, it does become more stressful to get a schedule together that everyone is cohesive with, that everyone agrees upon, and everyone shows up for. When you are planning a schedule, keep in mind, the more people you have, the more flexibility you need to build into that schedule. If this is a bigger budget and you have a bigger amount of people, you need to put in pockets of time where people are just kind of just going to be goofing off, because that's just what happens inevitably when there's so many people. But let's start with the basics of the scheduling, right? And I'm going to be talking about from the point of view of a bigger production, because that's mostly when I want to get through your head. And you should be thinking bigger anyway. And this is going to make you more professional, even if you're starting on a small level, right? So if you do have crew and you do have certain lighting that needs to happen, and things need to be lifted and hoisted and tied, and camera angles need to be tested, and lighting needs to be tested, all of those things, your crew is typically going to show up at least 2 hours before your talent gets on set. Your crew needs time to set up. Allow your crew that time. You might have the same call time. Call time is when everybody gets to the location, everybody gets to set. You might have the same call time for your talent if and only if they need to get there and get ready as well. Especially if you have a lot of women, especially if you have certain looks, if you're not telling people to come with their hair done, or if you are providing hair for people, they need to get on set as early as possible. Then it makes sense for everybody to be in the same location at the same time. Allow your crew the time to set up, allow them to look at the room. You should have probably already scouted these locations beforehand, but if you got the location and didn't necessarily block out all of the exact movements, which should have happened during a pre-production meeting. If you didn't get the opportunity to do that though, likely the camera person and the crew, they're going through the space and they're seeing, okay, what's the vision that we're doing? This is how we can make that happen. We need to move this. We can cheat this shot by doing this to add more depth. And that conversation happens. We can place a light here. We can place another light here. We need to have this light here. We need the camera to be able to move along this path within this space. And that's what they're figuring out for those 2 hours. Now, typically the sets that I've been on, crew will get there at say 7 or 8 a.m. Talent will get there at say 8 or 9 a.m. So the talent comes in an hour later because maybe they need 1 hour to get ready, to get dressed, to get hair, to get makeup. It might take that to get all of those things, right? And basically what you want to happen is you want to align the ready window, right? So when is the crew going to be done with their setup? When is talent going to be done getting ready? And you want those two times to be the same, because when that's the same, that's when you can get everybody on set and start to film. The thing that takes the longest amount of time on set is the setup. It's never the actual filming time. So for perspective, I've been on sets where every day is a 12-hour day at least, but we might actually be working for 2 or 3 hours actively. A lot of that other time is spent for setup and breakdown and moving and trying to get the lights and the camera angles just right. We very rarely we will never spend as much time on filming as we do setting up. That's why pre-production is so important. And I actually forgot to mention that during your pre-production, you and the videographer should also already plan out what shots you want to get, what looks you want to get, what angles you want to get. So when you get into your location, you're not there trying to figure out what you want to do. You already know how you want it to look and you know exactly how you're going to shoot it. Now, you got to get the lights and stuff set up and then maybe figure out space-wise, is this going to work? If you have dialogue, you got a sound person, there's going to be the talent, the camera, the sound person, all in the same space. Do you have enough space for that? Or do you need to figure out how everyone is going to fit in this space? So it can get very crazy depending on, again, the size of the production. But the more people you have, the bigger the production, the more flexible you need to be with the time. Okay. Now, let's say you got a lot of people and we talked about wardrobe. We talked about hair, makeup, and clothing, right? Do you have multiple looks? You need to allow time within your schedule for yourself to change and for your talent to change, especially if you have women. I need to reiterate this because ladies, we just take more time to get ready. Okay. But especially if you have women, how long is it going to take to do a different hairstyle? How long is it going to take to switch out a lip? How long is it going to take to switch out eyeshadow? Or do we have to put you in full face makeup because this is like a special effects kind of thing and we need you to look completely different for a new scene? How long is that going to take? Makeup can be at least an hour. Hair can be 10 to 20 minutes, right? Changing outfits. It sounds simple to give everybody 5 or 10 minutes to get dressed, but how intricate is the wardrobe? Are there a lot of accessories, a lot of pieces? Are the clothes kind of delicate or are there a lot of layers? And then the amount of people that are changing, if you don't have adequate space for everybody to change, people need to rotate in and out of the changing room and it adds time to how long it's actually going to take to get everybody ready. So you need to think about all of those things. Allow the time for the changes. How many wardrobe changes? Allow the time for that. How many people? Allow the time for that. And then just movement, right? People moving throughout the space wherever you're filming. How long does it take people to walk from one area to another? And inevitably, you're going to have people trickling in and trickling out. So it might take a little longer to get everybody in. So you got to be flexible with the time and you have to keep in mind human nature and you have to keep in mind how many people, how long is it going to take to get all these people in this one space? Something else to think about if you're doing multiple locations. Again, if it was just you and the videographer, that's just 2 people. Of course, that's a lot easier to manage because that's just 2 schedules you have to worry about, right? The beautiful thing about doing something that is a large production and including a lot of people, it's merging everybody's timelines together to be in the same place at the same time to focus all of our energy on the same task. It's a beautiful thing when it happens, but it is so extremely frustrating and irritating to get us all to that point, right? So you have to keep in mind timing and scheduling is everything on set. So let's talk about if we're changing locations. The more people you have, the longer it's going to take. All right. I live in a big city. I live in Atlanta. You have to keep in mind, when are you going to have what's called a company move? That means everybody is changing location. Are we done here? Okay. Everybody's going somewhere new. It's not like we're driving at like 8 o'clock at night and there's no traffic on the road. What if we finished one thing we did from like 8 a.m. to 12 o'clock and we need to change locations? Well, 12 o'clock is lunchtime. That's a rush hour period, right? There's more traffic on the roads. So what was a 20-minute drive can actually take 45 minutes. And again, human nature, people are doing their thing. They're veering off of the path. They're taking their sweet time, whatever's happening. It's not just driving to the location and then we get started. You got to think about all these different departments, the talent, the lighting, the cameras. Everybody has to pack up everything they have, put it into boxes, put it into cars, drive the cars. It's not just 20-minute drive, it's 45 minutes. And then when you get to the new location, you don't just go in there and start filming. You Got to find parking. You park the cars, you take everything out of the cars, you take everything out of the boxes, and then you figure out how do we make this space work with everything that we have. So that takes time. And then especially if you're working on a big set, those company moves that are happening at like 12 o'clock, well, we've already worked half of our day. Legally, we need to take a break and we need to feed everybody. So what time is that going to happen? And how long do we think that's going to take? And did we cater, or are we ordering food for everybody? How long is it going to take for this huge order of at least 10 people to get to our location? How long is it going to take everybody to eat? How long are we going to give everybody? And then people trickling in and out, people taking their sweet time, people just doing what they do, people just peopling. It takes time. And that lunch thing, the crafty table, providing food for people, budget wise, can you do that? If you're not paying talent to be on set, are you at least feeding them? And this is something that I hadn't mentioned yet. A lot of times we're going to try to get our friends and family to help us on set because we may not have the budget to pay for a bunch of people to come. People are not going to be as professional if they're not getting paid. That's just how it goes, unfortunately. So now you have more people involved who are not being paid. You need to factor in that people are not necessarily moving with a little pep in their step. You know what I'm saying? They're not moving with purpose necessarily if they're not getting paid. They don't feel like they have to be as professional, unfortunately, when they're not getting paid. And that is just something that you have to deal with. They're right. They're not getting paid. They're doing this out of the goodness of their heart and because they want to beef up their portfolio and their reels, right? They're not going to treat it as professionally as if they were on a big production and it is imperative for them to be somewhere where they said because they're getting paid a certain amount. So keep in mind that people are not going to be on time for that simple fact, and build that into your schedule so you don't get disappointed, so you don't get frustrated when people are not where you ask them to be when you ask them to be there. This is a lot that I've gone over, but these are the basics. And you notice I didn't even tell you like really technical things. These are the basics of what happens on a set when you're filming anything. Usually as artists, we're indie, we're starting small. It's usually going to be just us and the videographer. And that's obviously a lot easier to deal with. However, if you want a bigger production, depending on how big the vision is, depending on how big the production is, you need to keep in mind, how are you going to organize all of these people and manage all of these people? I have to reiterate to you, you're not just the artist in this situation. And until you are able to pay people to do the things that you don't want to do, you have to wear all of the hats. You have to be the project manager. Even if it's just you and the videographer for the time being, you still want to treat it as if this is a huge set, because this video is your baby. This video is important to you. And because you want to practice and you want to prepare yourself for when you are on a bigger set under a bigger production. Get your practice in. You're paying for your own practice right now, but get your practice in. Practice being professional, practice pre-production, practice having multiple pre-production meetings, pre-planning meetings before you even step foot on the set, before you spend money securing locations and securing models and actors and whatever else you need. Practice scheduling, practice having a timeline, and practice sticking to it, and learn what it takes to be able to stick to a timeline. If you expect to be on a bigger stage, if you expect to be on a bigger set, your preparation is proof of your expectation. So you need to prepare as if you are already on that level. You need to act as if you are already on that level. And when you show up that way, prepared, you show up expecting, people can see that, and people will definitely see you as more of a professional person, and they'll want to work with you and they'll want to help you. Even if you don't have the money that you want necessarily to have a big vision, the way that you show up means a lot to people. So show up right and show up like you expect it to be great. Also do that with respect though, because some of y'all think you're bigger than you are and you treat people badly. That's not what we want to do. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is treat everything with the respect it deserves. Treat it as if you are already on a bigger level. And a bigger level requires your professionalism. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning into Lex Chat. If you find that this helped you, make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified each and every time I drop a new video. And in the comment section, let me know what you want to chat about next. Until then, my name is Lexi. Peace.
Had a long day, see you walk by, right past and you hit me with a side eye. I guess a quick hey is too much to say, baby. Might be in your feelings, I won't complain, baby. I'm the blunt type, steps in your boss like I want the